So in today's broadcast, we're going to be discussing sleep and the importance of it. And relative to today's broadcast, we are going to kind of tie it in for our current patients in the program as well as our maintenance patients. It's a little more directed at our maintenance patients or those of you who've graduated, just some of our observations from people coming back and what we're being told. And how about I kick this over to you, Dr. Rutherford, so you can kind of go through what you've been experiencing relative to your sleep patterns.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons we're doing this is because, it's interesting. Most people come here can't sleep. Most people come in here have a difficult time falling asleep. They wake up, they can't go back to sleep. It's certainly one of the main things. People are exhausted. Certainly it contributes to the chronic fatigue that most of our chronic patients have. And so at that point in time, sleep maybe is kind of emphasized from the perspective when you're going through the program. It's emphasized from the perspective of I'm not sleeping. And you understand that's kind of a parameter of getting better, getting rid of your pain, and so on and so forth. And then once people are doing better or doing well, sleep doesn't seem to be as well, I don't know, so I say well understood. It kind of falls off versus me doing my exercise, my brain exercises. I'm watching my diet. The diet is definitely the overwhelming issue that grabs people's attention once they leave here. I'm not watching my diet. Maybe people understand that they still have a little bit of a metabolic capacity. I know personally myself, I have a pretty active life, but I can't be anywhere near as active as I used to be because that'll crash me. I think people seem to be aware of that. But I noticed that people don't think as much about sleep. They almost think like, okay, now I'm doing all the right things, and so I don't need to sleep as much. Where the reality is, and I can only share you my experience. Again, those of you who don't know, I imagine most all of you know, but I have fibromyalgia, peripheral neuropathy, chronic fatigue, celiac, other things. Hashimoto's, probably an attack against my cerebellum, God knows what else, okay? But as long as I'm doing my program, I feel pretty good. But if I don't get my sleep, and I will tell you my proper amount of sleep, and I wrote a book, I'm not telling you to go get this book, okay? But I wrote a book called Power Health in the late 90s, right before I started getting into all this stuff. I wrote an entire chapter on sleep and made the argument at that time, based on research, that 8 hours of sleep is generally not enough for the average person. We probably didn't know at the time it was because there's somewhere between 130 and 160 million chronic pain patients were going to be developed in this country. But I will say that the recommendations were 9 to 10 hours of sleep. I will tell you, I have to get 10 hours of sleep. I get 10 hours of sleep while I'm doing my program, and I am majorly sharp for the day. Mm-hmm. I get 6 hours or 7 hours, not a good thing for me. I'm nodding off in the day. I have to go take walks in between patients, and I have to do all those types of things. From a clinical perspective, sleep is incredibly important.
Oh, absolutely.
Relative to, did you want to do that? Or talking about how, you only really heal, your tissues heal of the daily, nicks and dents that it gets when you go into REM sleep.
Right.
Well, if you're compromised and you're still getting, life still goes on, stress still goes on, viruses are still around, and nicks and dents still happen. Sleep helps your immune system. Sleep helps you to heal.
Yeah, and then if you're not sleeping, then your cortisol goes up. If you're pushing yourself, so to speak, somebody said to me the other day, well, very successful people only sleep 6 hours a night. Well, I don't know. I would beg to differ on that one, because I think there are a lot of reasons why people are quote unquote successful through the eyes of the observer.
Right.
But relative to this, when you don't sleep and you push yourself, then your cortisol ends up going up. And when your cortisol ends up going, when it elevates, then you're more likely to get sick. You're more likely to not heal appropriately. You're more likely to have autoimmune problems. And trust me, I've been guilty of this. Many of you get emails from me at midnight. I'm really taking a concerted effort now. I'm sleeping 7 hours a night. I'm at least laying down at 11. I wake up at 6. And I feel a lot better because of it. And we can only push ourselves so hard. And unfortunately, in today's culture, we're all told that, we're lazy if we're sleeping more than 6 hours. It's really not true. And you got to take into account all the stuff we're doing during the day. And in today's culture, again, we have a different society. We're bombarded with so many electronic messages. Communication is different these days. it's not like our grandparents per se, at least my grandparents, that grew up with a fairly simple life. Many of us don't have a simple life. And that's all the reason more why it's so important for us to sleep, for us to shut our minds off so we can rest, heal, and recover.
Yeah, we have television until midnight, 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And to go to the part that you said about we feel guilty, I will tell you. I mean, I share with you so that you know I am a vulnerable human being, just like all the rest of my patients. Okay, and when I go to sleep early. Okay, I go to sleep somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock, and when I get up earlier, when I wake up and I can still feel I'm tired, my brain will say, "Oh, well, you're supposed to get up. You're supposed to get up first thing in the morning. The mornings are the best time of the day. Early to bed, early to rise." I was a big Ben Franklin freak, read all the books about him, you know, and those types of things. And that goes through my brain. And then I just go, you know what? I'm still tired. It took me a while to get to that. And now when I am able, which is about 4 days a week, I go back to sleep. I wake up. Now I've got like my 10 hours of sleep. I pop up out of bed and I feel good. And I really feel good that whole day. I just think sleep is massively misunderstood. Now, if you want to get my book and read the chapter, I'm just kidding. But I do think that sleep is so underrated, and it's been so put at the bottom of the food chain relative to what helps you to get better. And I think it's a huge mistake. And so that's why we're covering this week. Again, this is particularly pertinent to those of you who have already completed the program. Those of you who are still in the program, Dr. Gates is still trying to figure out how to get you to the point where you can sleep for 7 hours or 6 hours. Mm-hmm. For you, that's tremendous, okay? But once you get going, you have to find out what's right for you. Hey, if 8 hours is right for you, fine. Okay, that's fine. But it's got to be what's right for you, not what your friends or society dictate. That's what you have to figure out. And once you figure that out, and if you do this, I will guarantee you, you're going to see an improvement in your health.
So this is our keys to success. What is this, number 47, 48, 49, 50? 50, okay. So that's fantastic. So we're 2 away from a year of doing these. Please send us your questions, your comments, your concerns, what you want us to talk about. Next week, we're going to be talking about supplements that you're buying over the counter and things to be cautious of, or that you're buying off of internet websites. So we'll talk to you next week, and take care.